When I think about our band and our transparency and being vulnerable, I'm reminded, of my own life. I grew up in a world that did not welcome vulnerability. And it was, I didn't even know what being vulnerable was. Being to some extent sort of kind of fake and just trying to act like everything was okay all the time. That was just the culture. At least that's the pressure that I felt. So it was really hard for me to get to a point in my life, and it took a lot of hard knocks where I was like, okay, gosh, I think not only is it safe to do this, but whether it's safe or not, I have to be real because I'm so sick and tired of, trying to put on this mask. And thankfully, I think we're in a world right now that's welcoming transparency more and more. It's just been cool to see, for me, how it has trickled through our music and how we just, even when we sit down to write, we want to be intentional about that.
I remember being a teenager and living this life behind closed doors that I didn't want anyone to know about. But because I was living it and I knew it was wrong, I was lonely, just inescapably lonely as a result. And honestly, I don't feel like until my 30s I started dealing with that loneliness. And that has been a shocking thing for me to realize, I need to unpack all that. I've done more counseling the last few years that has unpacked so much that needed to be unpacked, and I feel more free than ever. The antidote to loneliness is a relentless indifference to everything but Jesus, which is a crazy thought. If we pursue him, then we will find the answers to everything we're looking for. But at the same time, he calls us into relationship. I think I don't want to be an island anymore. I would encourage anybody, man. Find a way to pour sand in between the islands so that we get connected,
I think I would also challenge people that we don't need to hide from God. I've spent a lot of time trying to cover up and, look good for people, but also to look good for God. So a couple years ago, I had my first vulnerable prayer with God, where I just started pouring out my heart without any filters. I turned the editor off, and I remember that conversation with him, and it really changed my life. When we do that, we allow God to come into all of those places. And if we cover him, it's like, you can't go there, that's too painful, that's too whatever, I'm not gonna touch that, then he'll never be able to heal us. And I love that scripture, beginning of Hebrews 12, and it says, let us throw off every sin that has entangled us and every wound that has pierced us and run to Jesus wholeheartedly, who's the author and finisher of our faith. So I love thinking about that. Let's throw off everything, get past all the junk, and heal from all the wounds from people or from ourselves. And run to Jesus. And so that's what I would challenge people. You don't need to hide from God, and you don't need to hide from people close to you.
I have a really good friend, and he said to me, what happens to us a lot of times is not our fault, but how we deal with it is definitely our responsibility. And so, I'm sure there's so many people watching this who have gone through some incredibly hard things that they did not control. It's not like they brought it on themselves. But how you deal with it is absolutely your responsibility. And I found just my connection with my good friend, who's also a believer, has just freed me so incredibly from some of the self-victimization. And he really helps me get beyond that. And I think that's really crucial to have someone you can go to and be vulnerable with help you get out of your funk. Because it's real, those feelings are real, but it's also good to be able to move beyond that and not sit in that victimhood and put into action, our faith.